place a lot of emphasis on critical thinking. That's because you can't have one formula that's good in all contexts. Comparing the crises at Intel and Boeing highlights how there is no universal solution to bad management. Almost all makers of CPU chips contract out their manufacturing to companies like Samsung and TSMC. On the other hand, when Boeing tried to outsource manufacturing of subassemblies of commercial aircraft, it was mostly a disaster. Many of the suppliers they turned to didn't have their own design departments and weren't capable of doing what Boeing wanted them to do, especially not at the prices Boeing would pay. In contrast, companies like TSMC have only a very small number of head-to-head competitors for making the highest performance processor chips. Intel is trying to restore their position in the first tier of chip making, but it remains to be seen if and when that effort will result in the industry acknowledging that Intel is among the leaders again. Boeing faces an even more daunting challenge. Boeing has laid off and driven out a lot of the engineering talent in recent years. Boeing management has been actively hostile to its own engineers and production line workers. Intel merely lost focus. So while I will continue to explain and clarify, don't expect a one-size-fits-all explanation of these companies' troubles. Despite the difficulty in finding solutions to some problems, others have glaringly obvious roots. Recently, it was reported that Stephanie Pope, the CEO of Boeing Commercial Aircraft, who totally unsurprisingly has a background as an accountant, really, she's your favorite bean counter's favorite bean counter, came up with the thuddingly unpersuasive statement that Boeing workers should consider Boeing's $60 billion debt. Okay, let's consider it. Since 2014, when the Machinists Union gave up their defined benefit pensions, Boeing has spent about $40 billion on share buybacks. Perhaps that doesn't make finding a solution easier, it may even do the opposite, but it does point out an enormous structural failure in corporate governance, where management can trade a future risk to the company to meet their stock price bonus requirements in the present quarter. Share buybacks used to be outright illegal as a form of stock price manipulation. If Boeing comes to need a government bailout, it should include an element of a debt-for-equity swap that rolls back some of those stock buybacks, and a limit on accumulating debt due to stock buybacks in the future.